All right, I guess that's actually a good segue point to switch to discussion of our demo day. So I'm going to share my screen. So yeah, this is the point at which we should split the video, I guess. Okay, so I just made. So I'm just sharing the Rome page with like a very rough template. And I think what might be helpful is if we quickly went around the Zoom room and did like a quick 20-second statement on where you think you'll be by demo day. So remember, this is December 12th. So what will you have ready? And then we can switch into the topic I think Eric is most interested in, which is how can we put those raw materials together to create like a spectacle of some sort, right? So I'll start. My stuff, I think I'll have the mechanical assembly of the main rover ready to show, and the testbed rover, I should have it at least responding to simple forward, backward, left, right type commands. So hopefully I can get that far, but I don't think I'll get to like ROS or networking it or making it teleoperable over the internet or something. So that's where I am. Meyer, you want to take next? So you can go in the order on the script.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I was thinking of making a rover that when it walks in the garden, it looks like it's interacting with the garden. Maybe, it avoids clumps. Maybe if it gets stuck, you can see evasive activity. Maybe there'll be closed loop on visual, on distance sensing. I'm not sure which.
Rhett, where will you be?
I think I'm going to claim to be basically where I am right now, which is that I have my rover teleoperation works. I can take a picture now. I'd like to get some of those pieces working a little bit better and a little bit more reliable. I think the big question for a demo day would be whether I can kind of integrate that into some, like, can someone else operate this rover over the internet? I think that would be like really great, but I feel like we're a little ways from that. So, or we're all a little ways from that. I'm not sure what needs to be done for that.
I just want to interrupt here for a second. I built, Nathan helped me, and I have, if you run Python, Linux on your rover, so the part of connecting it to the internet and exposing a interface to people to control, that's mostly done.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there is an integration problem, but just, anybody who wants to connect the rover to the internet, just let me know. Let's see how many we can connect.
I think that would be, now would be a good time to explore that. I think it's at a good place for doing that. Is the interface the Discord bot?
No. The Discord you can have now. It works. But the Discord requires you to run Discord on your computer. Here I'm talking about a basic web server,
mm-hmm.
which runs on your computer. And in response to, it serves a page with a user interface, a very primitive one now, but it doesn't matter. When you press a button on the user interface, your rover gets a command, and then it's up to you what you want to do with that command.
Awesome. Totally make that work.
Okay, so it's just a little bit of integration there.
Yep.
Clarification for me, Rhett, you're running an Arduino Uno on the rover, but this would be on the base station, right? Which is the RPi. That's what would run the web server?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anuraj, where's Infinity and Beyond?
Yeah, so I might do teleoperation for both. The drone is already done, and the integration of the mechanical part is like 50% done. So I think I'll be able to teleoperate. And yeah, I also set up the Raspberry Pi already.
All right. Gradient descent.
Gradient ascent.
Oh, ascent. You want to go up, not down. Okay.
So yeah, I'm thinking of web teleoperation thing, but with something like you can select what the rover has to follow. Maybe like I have a cup or what is it? Something like, let's say this penguin thing, and you just move it around and it has to follow it. So something like that, and this obstacle avoidance. So yeah, the first step would be teleoperation, then obstacle avoidance, then this object following, and finally, I think these already there's the code. I just have to check whether this would work, or I would have to tweak around the framework myself. Anyway, the working code is there. Then finally, maybe I will try something bit fancy, like try to take OpenAI's clip thing, which has with which you can do something like connect language with representations. And I don't know, I'm not sure on what yet. Like if I say follow X, would that even be able to be translated into motor commands or something? But yeah.
That sounds like a definite stretch goal.
Yeah.
All right. So all of you want to teleoperate. Now I feel left out. I don't know if I can manage
teleoperate
it.
means I'm not sure about the internet teleoperation for me. Like basic
Okay.
teleoperation by myself.
Oh, okay. You just mean remote control locally. Okay.
Yeah, I'll be happy to help whoever has a Linux system with Wi-Fi connected to our rover web server.
Okay.
Oh,
okay.
Wait. Victor
Even
is
with minimum abilities, you can just go right or left.
We forgot Victor because his face was not visible in my camera strip. So go and see where will go and see B.
So I'll have a rover with a camera and the ability to do local teleoperation, like Anuraj was mentioning for sure. The remote teleoperation will exist. It may not be completely snappy because of my internet connection. And I'll have the beginnings of a test bed where we can test different software approaches on similar hardware, computational hardware anyway, to what pretty much everybody's using right now. Like I've got the Jetson Nano, I've got the Raspberry Pi, I've got a Sci5, et cetera, et cetera. So I've got the ability to say, well, we've got, somebody wants to make sure some software will work reliably everywhere. Well, I can test it. That's I'll have the at least the beginnings of that. I won't necessarily have everything automated yet.
All right, perfect. And Eric, I was saving you for last because that would be the natural segue to whatever you want to orchestrate, because I think you have the, I don't know, some sort of vision that you've been thinking of.
All right, yes, it's basically, I put it in single line, but it's something I'm talking about since August, basically. So the thing that I have two spider boats, and so they are the same, okay? And so with the work from Meyer on the teleoperation, the idea is to make a very simple game where I put something like a pet bottle in a corner of some space, and two people pilot a spider and try to be the first to find and bump into the pet bottle, basically. So that's the scenario I talked about in August. And the reason for that is maybe because it's a little bit fun. Also, we have all the components, okay? It's hardware and software. It's slightly challenging, but this is one of the driver inside behind having a kind of UI. If you remember the demo that Meyer did with the teleoperation with the commands inside Discord, it's based on that basically. Okay, it's just to add the UI that Meyer talked about earlier. Okay, and so with this UI and video feedback, we have all those components. Okay, it's I thought it was fun to have a simple game. Okay? with some competition. And behind this, one of the motivation behind this game is, of course, the fun, but also it's about collecting some data, because it's a data that after I can use in what I showed last week. Okay, and another thing is that the software, you know, it's homemade basically, and there is a latency, and the latency, you know, is when you give a command, the robot take a couple seconds before reacting. Okay, and trying to see whether it's not a good example of what it would be to remote control a rover on the moon, perhaps. Okay, it's maybe a couple seconds should give a good example of the moon. So it's like putting in a space conditions on a very simple scenario to see the kind of feeling it gives to have a remote control that is not responsive, and in a way to justify more work into automation, exactly what Sai talked about earlier today. Long story short, again, a teleoperation scenario.
All right, so those are the raw materials. So the floor is open for how to actually organize that. We have, I guess, 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. So we have 5 hours. So how do we want to do this?
Since one thing is that since we have several scenarios with teleoperation, how about having some parallel sessions where participants could join to try one robot, and at some point try another robot? It would be in parallel, and if there are many people who want to try, we can have all that ready basically.
You mean one person controls a robot in some other part of the world, right?
But the thing, yes, if for the bots who can support that, but it's also to since it's about teleoperation for several builds. I don't know. I don't see that happening in series. Okay, because in a way it would be perhaps for the audience, it would be like seeing the same thing over and over with a different setting or a different platform. So I was wondering whether it was you know, like we did last time, is to split this in parallel rooms that run in parallel for some time.
Just one room where all the robots that can connect are in the same room.
That part I don't know. Okay, so
Okay.
it will be several streams, or
Yeah.
I don't know.
I want to disagree for 2 reasons. The first reason is robots that run on batteries run out after no more than an hour. And if they all run out at 8 a.m., so that's it. And the second reason is I think it is very interesting for people to feel how different robots are different. I mean, Eric says that he has 2 identical spiders. I don't know if they're identical to each other, and I don't know if they're identical to mine. I'd like to feel that. Definitely, if I could connect to Anuraj's rover, which is completely different from a spider, it's very interesting to feel what happens when you give it a command. How does a picture change? How fast does it move? We just saw a size system. It's completely different. It's much more nimble. It moves quickly. It spins around. So I think it is interesting to sequentially try different rovers, but I also think we have to do it because otherwise we run out of battery.
So how long is the demo? 4 hours? Or...
Yeah. No, the demo is 40 minutes long, and you tell me when it starts. Because 40 minutes is all I can get out of my battery.
We have 5 hours of total agenda time, and of course, we don't need to use it all in demos. In fact, I doubt we'll be able to fill up 5 hours worth of demos. Like I'll be done in like probably 5 minutes. It's like forward, backward, left, right, done. But I think we do need to actually provide some context. So one obvious thing is there should be an introduction session that just introduces the project and talks about what we're doing and why open source rovers, the logic of things like, $10 per kilogram to low Earth orbit as sort of a motivation. So opening motivation introduction thing is there. Then towards the end, we should probably do some sort of town hall, open floor. Anybody can ask questions and things like that, including us sort of basically marketing the project and saying, what are the ways in which you can join and why you should join next year. So those two bookend sessions are kind of clear. These sessions in between, I think an interesting question to ask would be, what other types of more, I guess, discussion oriented sessions could usefully complement them? Like, should we pick a topic or two and just maybe talk about ideas instead? We've just been talking about blockchain. So a session could be rovers coordinated through blockchains on Mars. That could be a group discussion for 30 minutes. So maybe one useful thing we can do is, right now we can brainstorm a bunch of potential non-demo session topics and see what comes out of that. So what non-demo session ideas do people have?
Do we intend the demo session part to include just describing the builds, the background to that? Are we trying to get away from that because that's really more about the build updates that we do all the other sessions, or what are we?
I think there's a couple of ways to play that. I would favor something right in the introduction session, just like we did in the Yakathon. I don't know if you were there that time, but we just did a couple of slides per build. It was simply this is the current state, this is what it can do, and here's the roadmap for where we came from, where we're going next year. So very quick 2 to 3 minute introduction of each build. That way everybody has a big picture view of the entire fleet. And then when they go into the demos, they know what they're looking at. Does that work for everybody? Because then during the demo, they can ask you questions about specific capabilities and things. I'll put that in structural ideas.
I think that if our goal is to encourage people to do it, we should have some sort of session where we talk about the minimal setup and minimal set of skills you need in order to do something. I shouldn't say minimal, there's a few alternatives. You can do it like this, or you can do it like that. So it's both skills and what kind of setup do you have to have at home? You have to have a soldering iron, a 3D printer.
Yeah, this sounds like an ideal sort of panel Q&A session where we basically answer questions of how to get started, something like that. Yeah, I definitely think that would be a good session.
Yes and no. In other words, questions is good, but I'm assuming that more people will watch the video than will be at the demo. So some sort of complete, and it could still be in a Q&A, but we write the questions. Some sort of video which people can look at, introduction, how to get your feet wet.
Got it. That's a good point. So that means it needs a little bit more structure, and we should structure the discussion as, all right, if you are strong in electronics, this is probably the easiest way to get started. If you're a programmer, this is the easiest way, that kind of thing. Is that what you mean?
Exactly. And in fact, you could actually have several different sessions saying exactly what you said. One is for people programmers, one is for printers, and so on. And I'm just thinking, about the marketing. When you market this, it can be a Yak Rover demo day. But this, for example, is, how to start, depending where you're coming from, is a learning. It's not a demo. We've learned a little bit about what works, and it can reduce the resistance of people to do it. And then we don't mark it as a demo day. We mark it as I'm not sure, how to get started with robots a Yak way.
Mm-hmm. All right.
It's more of an open
definitely-
house than a demo day.
Open house sounds to me kind of vague. As in, why would you come to an open house? You don't want to buy it. But if I heard about robots and somebody says, for $20 a month, you can get into robots, okay, I'll listen.
So we can market it a bunch of different ways. We can do a couple of Twitter threads, like basically saying it all. Like we don't have to choose. We can sort of like do a few tweets on like, come look at demos of rovers. A few more tweets saying, come learn how to make your own rover. A few more tweets saying like, if you want to be part of open source future Mars mission, come and talk big ideas with us. So that, by the way, would be another good session idea, I think. Open source space programs. So the big ideas kind of session. All right, more session ideas.
Last time there were a few specializations, you know, the one on wheels and stuff like that. Are there such kind of topics that are either new topics or maybe take topics from the past to dig them further?
Oh yeah, the Yakuton. I actually don't remember what the hell we did there. Let's see.
We talked about what a wheel is.
Yeah, we did have a session on reinventing the wheel, and we had a couple of other sessions. I forgot what they were.
One was this in situ resource utilization, but that
Yeah.
didn't happen. I think a lot of
Okay.
them didn't happen. We could take some ideas from last year.
Oh yeah, design fictions for Mars Colony. I think Sachin was running that kind of more on the storytelling narrative side. Okay, yeah. So this page is here. I'll just link it to the other page.
Do we want to bring any guest speakers? Or it's all about us?
Yeah, speakers might be nice if you can find a good one.
What would be a good speaker? In other words, what subject, how specific would they need to be talking about to make them good?
Well, we've had two guest speaker sessions so far, right? One was David Lang talking about the Open ROV project, and then Eric's friends talked about the lunar simulation thing.
Mhm.
So those are our two data points.
Okay.
Some of you were not there for both. I like both of them. So something from like practicing researchers in the field, either like on the management side. So David's was more on like, how do you do an open source movement kind of stuff with some elements of tech, whereas Eric's guests were more on the tech side. So something like that, like almost a view from the trenches kind of speaker would be better, as opposed to like, I'm thinking what we don't want is like some super famous professor doing like a big keynote type thing, or like a famous NASA person giving like a story of a mission. That's kind of impressive, but you can find that kind of thing in many other places, like, you know, university recorded lectures or like NASA events. I think the stuff that's harder to find is get a more, I don't know, interactive discussion with somebody hands-on doing something like in the weeds. But that's my preference.
So somebody who discusses how he managed to design his delivery bot for Amazon.
Yeah,
That would be a good one
That
if we
would
can
be
find
great.
one. But let's put a pin in that, because that'll need a little bit of like scouting and finding potential candidates. So this is starting to look to me like, all right, we have, I guess, 7 rovers. And if we do a little bit of parallelism, at least, I think we should have some parallelism just to like do time stuff, like to manage time better. So if we do like 3 times 2, so 2 rovers per session times 3, or, you know, 3 times 2, something like that. And we do like, I don't know, half an hour per demo session, we would use up something like an hour and a half on demos. That leaves us with 3.5 hours for other stuff. Or let's actually make up a time budget right now.
How are we?
Also-
Sorry, please.
Oh, no, I was just wanting to talk about contingency in the sense that, for example, in my scenario, I talked about 2 rovers, but right now I'm missing 1 battery because the battery is broken, and I'm having difficulties to order 1 because there is an embargo with China. Great, okay, and so it's possible that some of our builds, some of our scenarios, the demos, sorry, including mine actually, may not work. Okay, so maybe we can think about contingencies and to see, maybe we can define a time box for or minimal time box for demos, and if something doesn't work, oh yeah, time box with parallelization, and if there is a build that doesn't work, a branch dies off, okay, and we can focus on the others, something like that, basically. Maya and I yesterday were discussing about organizing a preliminary demo in a couple of weeks, okay, and so maybe just the 2 of us after, but soon after with everyone on another weekly meeting, as a motivation to make sure that everything works in advance, and also a motivation to try to get that battery as soon as possible. Otherwise, I would just use a very long tether, for example.
Okay. So I think contingency plans are going to be build level. So everybody should make some contingency plans, like expect certain patterns of failures. But one of the most basic contingency things we can do is, while we are trying to get to our demo and however well we can do it, we should just make like a video. Like take a video on one of the successful runs. And if your like live demo fails, just we'll play the video instead. So, I mean, it's kind of lame, but it's better than nothing. So I was planning to do that anyway, because I think among all of us, I'm the least confident in anything above the mechanical level. I have low confidence in it working. So I'm planning to take a video, and I think all of us should. But beyond that, yeah, I mean, anticipate the main failure modes of your build and like have a plan B if your main demo idea doesn't work.
So is there any web presence going to be there before the event for this demo day? So like if I
we'll
want
put
to
up an Eventbrite, I guess.
Okay. So I was thinking like one of my friends who is working at DLR, the German Aerospace Agency, and some of his friends showed they were working on some simulation stuff. So maybe, but I need to send them some information before I invite them.
So, okay, we'll put up an event page as quickly as possible for that kind of purpose, like either inviting people and or like even inviting them to participate. But that reminds me, like I think we chatted about this briefly on Discord. Can we make like a highlights video of all the video footage we've collected so far? Like, so just random clips of our meetings so far. Just
Yeah,
to give people. Yeah.
I was just planning to do it after this week. So I think by this weekend, I should be able to integrate the chassis, and then I'll like put up I will try to put up a rough cut in 2-3 weeks. Is that okay?
Yeah. I think that'll make for really good marketing material. Like if we even have like a 3-minute trailer with like, snapshots of moving robots, snippets of people just saying interesting things. It's like I don't know. We don't need a complicated thing. It's like a trailer for a movie, right? So just a few minutes of interesting cuts.
Okay.
All right. So
I just have a question. Are we supporting mingling in some way?
Oh, Discord thread for the day?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm just saying people come, they want to talk to us, yeah, but they also want to talk to each other and make connections. And I have no idea what the mechanism is. I'm just...
Yeah, like how would we have this networking kind of after the event?
I think last time, didn't we have a channel for the Yakuthon on the Discord that we just archived later? So we just tell them join the Discord, chat in the Discord.
Yeah, that's not as good as even having, Zoom breakaway rooms.
Yeah, maybe a Zoom breakaway rooms with some themes or something like AI, and then stuff with Mars related space robotics thing. I don't know.
So here I wouldn't plan for too much detail, because one thing we
Okay.
learned from the Yakathon is the number of people who show up is a function of like a bunch of random variables, as well as how interesting our content is and so forth. So if we end up with like 12 people and we try to divide them into 4 rooms, it's not going to really work very well. So for something like breakaway rooms, I would sort of do that in improv mode. If we end up with like 50 people attending, it makes sense. We make like 3 or 4 breakout rooms and call like a break session and say, go do a networking in any room you choose. If it turns out that only 10 people have showed up, we can all be in one room. So yeah, we can play that by ear.
Logistically, how would parallel sessions for different rovers work?
Ooh, yeah.
And like, how would you choose which one to go to? Or do people go to more than one?
Maybe we could have a short serial session before the parallel session. Like as Meyer suggested, like, I don't know, maybe people would like to see other people controlling a rover or something, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, but we are not there yet. At least not everybody would be there for the internet operation.
Yeah.
Well, tools like Gather Town allow you to have different things happening in different rooms, and you can walk from room to room.
You can do that in Zoom. I mean, you just open up a bunch of rooms and people move from room to room. So
only if they have the addresses of the rooms.
No, I think you can just open up named rooms and let people self-select, and then it's like change rooms comes up as an option. I've done it. So, but those logistics we can we should probably do a dry run a week before and like make sure they work. But that can be figured out. But I think my bias is towards not using unfamiliar tools like Gather Town. Like I've used it once, and it's unfamiliar enough that most people will get distracted exploring the new, web conferencing system instead of like talking robotics. So let's keep the conferencing system boring and familiar that everybody has been using all year, and keep the focus on the robots.
Yeah.
All right. So we need, we basically identified a bunch of things that need to be done. This parallel versus serial, I think, will determine the budget to some extent, but I don't think it's that critical. But let's just put down, let's say, since we have a 5-hour thing, so let's say 2 hours. This is completely just made up. Totally up for debate, but I just want something to get us started. So demos, 2 hours. If we do it serial, that divided by 7 means 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes each. If we divide it in parallel, then we can do more like half-hour each. But then people have to choose which one to see. And again, battery power is a constraint, and just literally how much you can do. Like some builds, there may not be much to do beyond like showing a 2-minute demo. After that, you're back to like discussing the technical details, showing some slides, stuff like that.
And also to address Red's point on how to choose if we choose for if we have parallel sessions. Last time we, in the opening, there was a presentation of different builds. And so after presenting the different builds, there is, if I remember well, there was also a discussion about the different sessions we were organizing and a kind of PR for each session for depending on the interest of the participants. I guess it could be the transition between the opening and the demos, if we run them in parallel, is to, during the opening presentation, to have a short pitch on each demo, so that people can choose.
So I think if we do end up doing parallel tracks, I would strongly be in favor of doing no more than like 2 or 3 at most, like not just the demos, but even the discussion ones. Discussions, in fact, I would honestly prefer to have single track because like all the topics are interesting and I'd rather do fewer full house topics rather than like, fragment the discussion too much. But the reason for like limiting the number of like tracks is we don't want what happened last time where there's like more tracks than people and you have like some sort of starvation effect and people move out of rooms and go to the more crowded rooms. It was kind of a little bit of a mess. I don't want a repeat of that. So maybe 2 to 3. I would even say conservatively, let's make it 2 tracks at most.
Yeah.
Like the demos can be 2 tracks.
It could be just like the different kinds of robots bunched together.
Yeah. So the
I mean,
2-wheelers. Yeah.
Do we really think we have so much content that like we need to parallelize? Like it seems like having parallel sessions is a solution to a problem that is we have too many people who want to watch 2-minute content, and maybe we'll let them choose their preferences and choose their own adventure through this complex web of interdependent sessions. And
so definitely the reason for parallel sessions, sorry, because I talked about that. The reason is just because several talk about the teleoperation. So it's the same scenario with a different build. That's the only reason why I mentioned parallelization. Okay? If each demo is just 5 minutes, yes, it works in series, definitely.
well, maybe we should just focus on having one of the demos with teleoperation be really good, and their other ones can be like, and our rover can kind of do that too. But then let's really focus down on having 2 spider bots fight or whatever.
I like that. Maybe I think the way to do this is serialize a bunch of like individual demos and then do a capstone demo of like all the of the most complex scenario we are able to generate, which at the moment seems to be multiple spider bots doing some complex coordination. So and then we can sequence from simple to more complex, or going up the stack in some logical order. Like machine learning comes towards the end because it's more sophisticated, and then social capabilities are the most sophisticated of all, something like that. So yeah, so I'm leaning towards the demos being serialized.
Is there also the possibility that we could, like, you could have multiple people operating multiple different rovers in the same Zoom room, as long as there's not too much discussion about like I don't know, it might be more interesting to like watch 3 different people operate 3 different rovers because it's not like that dynamic of an activity.
Is it possible to create a room like on the fly? Like if we need it, then just we create it. Otherwise we don't. Yeah,
we can do that. And in fact, usually I'm too lazy to pre-create rooms, and all the large group meetings I've run, I've only ever done improv, like make up rooms on the fly kind of thing. But yeah, I think what I think Red just said makes sense. Like if you literally have multiple robots being controlled at once, so long as the sort of overhead of like actually doing that doesn't confuse people, it's fine. Like if one teleoperation scenario is working through like Discord typed commands, and another one is just Anuraj is flying the helicopter and people are telling him make it go up, make it go down, they won't interfere. But if like there's a lot of crosstalk, that'll be a mess. So we just have to make sure any interactive command scenarios aren't using the same command channel, basically. But unless somebody has strong objections, I think the group is leaning towards serialized.
I totally agree.
Once.
Well, maybe that's it. If there's crosstalk, because so many people want to tell Anuraj how to fly his helicopter, and it's easy to just like break out into another room, then that solves it on the fly. That makes sense to me.
Okay, so basically serialized to me means the rovers take turns and then we end with a capstone demo of like the complex scenario. And maybe in the beginning or end, we do try this sort of like, all right, I don't know, floor is open, all the robots are up and the batteries are charged. You want to see any robot do anything, do it. So that can be sort of like a parallel session that kind of works or doesn't if we have time at the end. So almost like a Q&A for rovers, basically.
So where does teleoperation fit here? Like in the serialized version, would we allow people to, if we have, let's say, a web-based teleoperation interface, would that fit in the serialized part of each?
Yeah. So that would, we already did that once with Meyer's SpiderBot. So Meyer would lead that session. He would share a screen with Discord and camera on the robot. It would walk around and we would be typing commands there. That's basically it.
Okay.
So some version of that. So individual demos, complex demo, 2 SpiderBots, and then maybe parallel free-for-all chaos. That's what I'm calling it for now. And then discussion sessions, we have a bunch of ones here. So I think it'll come down to one, do we have a guest speaker? Discussion sessions.
What is the blockchain thing?
Just a group discussion
discussion.
on, can we do social coordination for robots on Mars using, like, you know, a blockchain type coordination mechanism. Each rover is running a node in a blockchain and exchanging tokens and things like that. So I'm interested in that because it sort of is a nice overlap with the new activity we are booting up. And Victor seems interested in that. So I think we have 2 votes. So what we might do is after we log off today's meeting, we can kind of like just do a simple quick poll on which of these session ideas is of most interest, and we'll do those. So we have a bunch right now. So let's actually, we never finished this discussion. Do people want to throw other options in the?
Can we have one on autonomy, like the area where Eric was talking about, like the autonomous abductive reasoning, not in that deep depth, but what we want to do with it, like, and even what I think Meyer was talking about in the sense like how a rover has to row, like I'm not sure, like it has to decide stuff on itself or something like that. Yeah, more of autonomy.
Okay, that's, I got the first one. The second one, I'm not sure what part of Meyer's stuff you're referring to.
Like how does a rover be playful or something? I'm not sure.
Oh, okay, that one, yeah. This also reminds me, sorry, my kitten is grabbing my headphone. Yeah, Meyer, you did that kind of like role-playing simulation game of, like, you know, balance the budget and make a rover go from one corner to the other.
Yeah.
Did you do anything more of that? That seems like a fun interactive thing to run.
I didn't first develop it
Oh, okay.
because we have actual rovers.
Yeah. But I'll list it just in case there's something people want to do that.
The autonomy abductive reasoning kind of session, it kind of feels like there's a question. If you see all these demos and they're all just teleoperation, essentially, the question is like, well, what's beyond that? Why do we have, why are we interested in these other topics that are not part of the demo or whatever? You know, I'm not qualified to speak on this. I'm just like, hey, maybe when you all could. It's like, what's the next step? We've got this. We can drive a rover around. We want something autonomous. Why? What does that mean? What is it going to do?
It's the space problem, the space latency, basically.
Yeah.
So by the way, these demo sessions, I'm kind of assuming the people who've like been talking about them are going to be the natural people to lead the discussion on them as well. So if we do end up doing a playfulness and rover session, Meyer, you'd lead that. So by this, I don't mean you need slides and need to like lecture at people, but like, you know, put out a few thought starter slides and prompt questions, and then open up the discussion and kind of curate it. That's the level of curation I think we can expect. I think there was we've been talking throughout the year about languages, so languages for rovers and
You
rover
mean
operating
abstraction, you
systems.
mean abstraction levels,
Oh yeah.
right? Not so much languages, more abstraction levels. Because when you say languages, sounds like Python, C# and so on.
So then you should call that biosemiotics.
Biosemiotics, okay.
Yes.
This is reminding me of what's that Tom Hanks sort of conspiracy movie where he uncovers an ancient church conspiracy. Isn't he a professor of semiotics?
Yes, semiotics, but
Da Vinci Code, yeah,
not
Da Vinci Code type.
Da Vinci Code, yeah.
semiotics.
All right. Are
So-
there any other
but-
things that have come up through the year that I know language is one of Rhett's, something to do with rover operating systems and rover
Software stacks.
and
I think software stacks goes in the, minimal set of skills and so on, or how to build a rover.
I mean, it can be handled at both the beginner what to do level, but also at the level at which Victor has been talking about it. Like, what does it mean to run VPNs on a set of rovers with Docker containers for capabilities, that kind of stuff?
No, I understand. I'm just saying there's a huge difference between talking about what does it mean to have a VPN and what does it mean to have a rover operating system. Okay, those are very, you put them in one line, but they are very, very different. Rover operating system is asking, well, what kind of basic abilities should the rover have? And VPN is a practical question, meaning,
Okay, I'll separate them.
what do networks between rovers look like?
So I'll call that practical architecture.
Yeah, well, we have enough recaps from the past half year that we can simply decide we'll do, a 15-minute flash discussion on each one of them.
Here, what if we took this? We're talking about like a 2-hour block, right? Like,
Yep.
If we took that and structured it as a panel discussion, all of these topics put together are kind of like a question for somebody on the panel that could also become a larger discussion if they strike a chord with people.
Put that as a structure
I think
idea.
that contracts them too much. Just for example, let's talk about playfulness. If you ask me a question, I'll answer it. Take 5 minutes, I don't know. But if you give me a 15-minute session, I'll put up a video of Venkatesh's cats playing with his robot. And then I'll put up a video, I don't know if he lets them, of course. I'll put up a video of dancing robots. And then I'd put up a video of a dumb robot in a factory. And that would lead the audience to talk about what they're looking for and what they think is right and so on. So in a panel, it's, me talking, but in a session, I wouldn't want to do slides because I want the people in the audience to, engage with the idea.
So
What if the form of answering is much like Josh's session where it's Googling and you can show videos, you can Google things, you can it's on Zoom. It's not like an in-person panel where you literally have people sitting on chairs without slides, right? Like you could actually answer questions that way.
So I have a feeling the Q&A format won't work. And the reason it works when Yasha comes and talks to us is we're all doing our builds and he has like specific deeper expertise in specific topics. And then we structure it that way so it kind of works. But I think when new people are diving into this with like a range of interests, it can kind of become like not participatory and kind of like dull. So I think we should try and structure this in a way where people, depending on their skills and knowledge levels, can self-select into some discussion that allows them to, like, I don't know, just get their feet wet and get involved. So we might, for example, have 2 tracks, one with some of the more I don't know, philosophical and managerial type topics like, language or what is an open source space program, and one track with like much more technical questions, and the technical people join the track on technical stuff and the others join the other one. And that sort of gives people a sense of, if they were to join the project, what might they do. So I do want to, like, I don't know, make it comfortable. Otherwise it becomes too much of like, all right, we spent a year becoming somewhat 10% more expert than average people, and we're going to sit around answering questions. Doesn't seem to work for me.
So, based on this and on what Rhett was talking about a bit earlier, what about identifying, for example, 3 blocks of different abstraction levels? Okay, the first block would be things that are down to earth, let's say, so things that are pretty well understood, and when we have experience and we can talk about that, we can do perhaps do Q&A there. Maybe more for beginners, not beginners in the sense of people who would like to join. The second one would be a bit more like the next step, okay, with things we are already starting to explore, but where we have a little bit less experience. And the third block would be something a bit more gaseous, okay, with more abstract ideas, things that we'd like to explore, including blockchain, for example. Okay, I'm not sure. For me, it's abstract. And so this bigger granularity is a high-level continuum from very practical and with immediate feedback to more like a discussion kind of thing. Okay? And to have this progression, after I don't know how to organize that in terms of time. Okay, it's just that maybe starting with something more beginner-friendly, so people can join, and people who are really interested in the abstract stuff can wait until the end, basically, something like that.
Okay, yeah, I think that's definitely one way to structure this. So the way I would sort of approach that is take this list of ideas, cluster them into the what you kind of like call solid, liquid, and gas, basically. Solid stuff where we know practically where we are. Liquid is where we are a little bit more squishy. Gaseous is like where we're still speculating. And we sequence them that way, and all these topics fall into one of the 3 buckets, and we kind of like sequence them that way. Or we could do a thematic clustering as well, like just topics that are related to each other. Like functionally, it could be all the computer science type topics in one bucket. I don't know what I'm saying. Actually, all of these are like too interrelated. But yeah.
I'm sorry, but in practice, even that actually is a thing to do, because, for example, you are more on the mechanical side. I'm definitely more on the software side, and Victor as well. Okay, and so if we think for the audience, software programmers who are joining the mechanical session, I mean, it must be a choice then. Otherwise, they will just be listening and not understanding a thing, right? Unless they want to really,
or being bored, yeah. I mean, even if they understand.
Yeah.
So again, I think this is actually coming up into a parallel versus serial thing. Should we actually make this a sequence of like themed sessions, either organized by skill hierarchy or by theme, or should we like just break it up into, all right, here are 4 rooms. If you're interested in the software side, go here. If you're a beginner who wants to start tinkering, go here. Do we do it that way? Again, I'm sort of leaning towards 2 tracks of say 1 hour each. So then you have 4 sessions, basically. We have 2 hours to use. So if we do like session 1, track 1 will be DIY how to get into making your own rover. Session 1, track 2 will be discuss all the sort of, computer science stuff. And then session 2, track 1 will be big picture, open source space programs, future of Mars kind of stuff. And 4th one will be R&D ideas. I don't know, something like that. So gives people a little bit of choice, but not too much. And we do a little bit of clustering. So it's not like an open soup of panel discussions, but also not like, 15-minute flash talks on like that don't do justice to any topics. That I think is a failure mode we should avoid. Like we've already got 10 topics here and I don't feel like dropping any of them. And if we try to do them each in 5 minutes, we'll not do justice to any of them.
Yeah.
So 4x 1 hour.
Is 1 hour longer?
8x 30 minutes.
Or it could be 4x 50 minutes with a 10 minutes break or something like that, no?
I have to go, so I'm gonna make Venkatesh the host.
Yeah, we should probably wrap it up a little bit.
Yeah, anyway, we don't have to decide right now. It's still open for discussions, right?
Okay, yeah, so this is where we are, and if people are fairly comfortable with this very rough agenda, what I can take as an action item is I'll sort of create like a tentative structure, and to the extent there's like any voting necessary because clustering doesn't do the trick, we can kind of like decide what to put in sessions if there's like competition for it. But just to summarize where I think we are, I think we've decided that the demos will be about 2 hours with like serial demos and ending with like one complex demo and maybe an open session. We'll open with an introduction where you'll all have to like put in like 2 slides just introducing your build, and closing will be some sort of town hall open Q&A. And these discussion sessions, probably like a bunch of like between 30 to 60 minute sessions, which will be scoped to have like a few topics, but not super narrow. So a few related topics together. That's my summary of where we are now. Everybody happy with that state?
Yeah.
Yes. Also, we have the templates from last time from the hackathon. So for example, to present the builds, we already have a template and perhaps we can reuse it because it was, yeah. Especially for Red and Sai, if we didn't have one before, it's just one slide and many samples now to get inspired from.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so that's good. So I have a bunch of like housekeeping project management to do. Oh, if you can spend 2 more minutes, I want to like scope out the room on project management. So I definitely will continue to manage and I'll take responsibility for the demo day event. But if you're up for doing some project management next year, that would really help, because I think it would be healthy for this project to have like rotating leadership, quite apart from my own sort of need to refactor attention. So Eric, you said you might be available after December.
Yes, just because I'm in the process of moving, for me, it's I'm not committing right now, but I'm definitely interested in the project and in continuing. So to serve as a coordinator for next year. If there is someone more motivated, of course, but I'd be glad to help there. Yes.
Okay, and we can do things to make it easier so that even the management function itself is like broken up a little bit. Like this year, Anuraj, I think, was listed in the original proposal as assistant project manager or something, or backup project manager. And he's been doing, I think, most of the note taking that has happened. So we can actually try and like formalize a little bit and say, every meeting both has a discussion leader and a scribe, and the scribe has to take notes. And maybe, you know, divide up things like, all right, somebody please take care of the document repo and like make sure the slides are linked in, something like that. So one thing we can try to do administratively is just identify 4 or 5 of the most useful kind of like grunt work things and just break it up into more than one person. I think this year we were still feeling our way around, but now we kind of have a sense of like what administrative tasks are actually needed.
Yeah, regarding that, I would like to spend more time on the video part. Then, so I'm right now also recording everything and then also taking notes. So it's kind of difficult to juggle all these things. So if somebody else can take notes, and then I can concentrate more on the video part.
All right, so the role of scribe is up for grabs. Anybody who wants to claim it can claim it. And Anuraj is now officially the video producer of this group.
Does video, I mean, can video producing replace being a scribe?
I think notes are super helpful, like at least bullet points at the very least, because video, I think, serves a very different sort of replay function. Like I personally refer to notes a lot.
Yeah, it gives a quick summary. Otherwise, you will have to watch everything, like 1 hour long sessions. But with the notes,
Yeah,
you
we
can
can-
just
we can
look them.
search.
Yeah, you can just
can just
see
search,
what
yeah.
it was. Yeah.
And it's also like a matter of how people prefer to consume information. Like I basically am pure text. I consume very little video, even though I produce it. Like I've never re-listened to any of my videos or podcasts, which is weird. So some people learn much better from video. Some people want notes to refer to. So slides, some people just want slide decks to review. All right, so that's another, I'll put this under 2022 planning, sort of refactor administrative roles.
There is also one thing that so I kind of candidate for next year for the administration, but it's open to veto from anyone. Huh?
All right. Any other closing thoughts?
You?
All right, so who's up next week? Is it you, Anuraj?
Yes, I can do that.
All right, I think, yeah, you are next on the calendar, and then I'm not sure who else is left. Victor, yeah, Victor's left. Okay, and we're almost at the end then. All right, so next week, update on Infinity and beyond. See you guys.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Good night.